has their own reason for doing so and carries a precious hope in their heart. Everyone participating today represents a thread in a tapestry, a piece of the mosaic, and has something to contribute to a growing movement. For me, I'm here to resist. As a parent, I'm here to resist the detention, torture, maiming, and use of Palestinian children for target practice by Israeli occupation forces. I'm here to resist the tax dollars and UN diplomatic support we have given to Israel for decades, providing it impunity from international law and their disregard for human life. I'm here to resist Israel's collaboration with the Mexican border wall that cuts through indigenous lands. I'm here to resist Zionist racism that sees Palestinians, including refugees, as a, quote, demographic threat. I'm here to resist the ADL and JINSA's sponsorship of Israeli training of U.S. police in surveillance and so-called anti-terrorism techniques for use against Muslim, Black, immigrant, and other devalued populations. Did you know that Portland Police Chief Danielle Outlaw participated in one of these trainings last July, and that Israel trains ICE? The organization RAIA, researching the American and Israeli alliance, along with Jewish Voice for Peace, keeps track of this in their online Deadly Exchange report. I'm here to resist the Israel Bloc Party celebration that has taken place the past 2 years at the UO underneath the 9 flags of Oregon's tribal nations. Thankfully, we now commemorate Indigenous Peoples Day rather than Columbus Day. Because Columbus Day, because Columbus Day represented the brutal, genocidal ethnic cleansing of the Americas. We shouldn't commemorate Israel's ethnic cleansing either. Might not Palestinian and Lebanese, Arab and Muslim students seeing Israel's flag feel the same as blacks seeing the Confederate flag, or Jews seeing the Nazi party flag? I'm here to resist both state and federal anti-BDS legislation and Israeli-centric Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, both of which the ACLU opposes. I'm here to resist, but also to suggest a way forward, not only to challenge political Zionism and all forms of institutionalized racism, all forms of bigotry, but also to create a vision of freedom, justice, and equality. And I'm asking you to do the same. If you are Muslim, consider joining Al-Auda and American Muslims for Palestine. If you are Jewish, consider joining Jews for Palestinian Right of Return and Jewish Voice for Peace, both endorsing the full nonviolent resistance tactics and goals of the Palestinian-led boycott, divestment.
Hashtag humanity. We must save humanity. Yeah. At all costs. Over all religion. Humanity. Human race. That's all. Human race. The human race. Human race. Human race. Human race. All human. All have the same heart.
We are not here.
We are here as one. Together.
Very sorry. We have heard
forward. We need to keep moving forward. Next.
All right. We don't mean to be divisive. Unfortunately, apologize. We have been inputting a lot of different women, but we need to move forward with our next speakers. Who's excited to talk to Julie Fahey and Heather Buck? Hi everyone, I'm State Representative Julie Fahey representing West Eugene and Junction City.
So I want to ask Mariah a few questions about her own impressions and what happened. All right, so we've seen the amount of the footage of Mariah's permitted speech was almost the whole speech, fortunately. She got a lot of information out. And as I said, I panned the crowd, and it looks to me like we had well over 1,000 people there. So Mariah got a lot of information out to a lot of people. So let's just debrief this a little. Here she is, and so Mariah, what did they say to you when they cut the mic?
Well, at first I didn't know what happened to the mic. There was no sound, and I didn't realize it was intentional at first, and then I realized it was, and I was basically told that you know, this is divisive. I wasn't finished. I still had another paragraph or so to finish, and I was not over my time. I had more I wanted to say, and I couldn't believe that they were not going to let me finish. I'm sorry if I seem a little bit nervous. It was
yeah, you were obviously contesting a little bit with them.
Well, I was confused and then I realized what they did, and it was just like being blindsided. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, if people wanted to just, you know, talk with me afterwards, or, you know, I'm always available if people wanted to question about what I was saying or why, I would be open to that.
Yeah.
But to be cut off like that, I was stunned. And I, at first, when I did most of my talk, a lot of people cheered. You might be able to hear it on this. And but then when they you know, when I had to leave, there were people that were, you know, an applause for that. So apparently some people really took offense at this.
Are you surprised?
I am surprised that I was cut off. I told several friends that I expected some blowback afterwards. That could have come in two forms. It could have, I was mostly afraid that the organizers would be harassed for allowing me to speak. I was actually worried about protecting the organizers for allowing me to speak. I know that Monica Olson was under a lot of pressure. I know what it's like to arrange events, host events. I hosted a lot of events myself. I thanked her for letting me speak, and I was surprised, but I think it just made it easier for them. They took the easy way out to say, I'm stopping this right now. And if you go to my Facebook page, you will see the entire speech that I was reading from on my Facebook page. There were a group of people. I was invited to attend one of their meetings. I suspected they wanted to meet me and wanted to know what I was about. I had sent them my mission statement, our mission statement, and a group of people came in with what I thought were very legitimate concerns. And they took up most of the meeting to express their concerns. And there was some heated discussion going back and forth. One of the issues was delaying the march, delaying the event until March or next year. That was offered.
Did not be so close to the MLK march.
Right. The other thing was the police, collaborating with the police on this. And the third thing was just the idea of being inclusive and not using people as tokens, but being honestly inclusive. And so when they left, I really thought that there'd be a vote on whether to have this event in March or have it next year, but immediately it went right back to having it at the original time that they had planned, and nothing, to my knowledge, had been changed.
So they paid no
plans.
attention to the complainants.
They gave lip service to, they listened and they gave lip service to it. And since this was, I was there when I heard all this, I was honestly hoping for and thought a win-win situation could have happened, okay? I thought that there could have been some understanding and compromise on both sides, but that didn't happen. That didn't happen. There was, for example, the issue of the police protection involvement had to do with insurance for one of the organizers, and that person felt like they couldn't openly sponsor the event if it wasn't. That was my understanding. I think that the march could have been postponed, but it wasn't, not out of principle, but because of convenience, issues of convenience. People had already been notified to participate in some way, and so that they took the easy way out, which I didn't feel like that part of it showed integrity, but and then on the Facebook page itself, I asked that they, since I'm not an organizer of this event, I asked they summarize the compromises, if any, they made after this group of people came in, and they never did that. So there was still a lot of negative feeling, and I could understand that.
At the very end, you were suggesting, hey, there are groups who are actually doing something about this, folks. None of you were in it yet, but maybe you could be, you know. And
I really would have liked to have seen and heard all voices. Everyone who wanted to, I would have liked to have seen them speak and heard them speak. As I already knew, and as one of the discontents told me, for example, the NAACP does not represent the entire black community.
No, that's for sure.
And, for example, Ben Jealous, former president of the national NAACP, is for the anti-BDS. He's against BDS. He's for the anti-BDS legislation. If I could take a moment, which I guess I can't, I could look up the name of the rabbi who's on the board of the national NAACP, and he belongs to an organization that's against BDS. And so the NAACP is a very conservative organization. Even Martin Luther King was criticized when he started to speak out on international issues such as the Vietnam War. He was he never severed his friendship with Malcolm X. He was beginning to see things through the eyes of Stokely Carmichael at the time. At one point, Harry Belafonte and Malcolm and Stokely, they were invited. They all went to Harry Belafonte's house for dinner, and the Jewish community was very afraid that Martin Luther King would start to come out in support of Palestinian human rights, because he had a conscience. I could, if I knew we were talking about this, I could get the exact names and dates.
Oh, that doesn't matter.
But the point is, that the NAACP did not, to my knowledge, say anything against having this event this week, or today. To my knowledge, they didn't have any objections to it. Yesterday there was an indigenous march at the University of Oregon that I participated in also, and nobody criticized, to my knowledge, nobody criticized the organizers of that march for having it take place during this MLK period.
Anyway, you that was the mousetrap you walked into. And maybe the organizers were unaware of this, but it's been in the paper. I don't know why they would be. But they may have been unaware, or maybe they were rebellious themselves. I don't know. But
I
anyway,
think they might have been afraid. I think they were very aware because there were posts on I saw some posts on one or two of the email notice pages. I have that Mondowise article by Amit Gupta on my Facebook page. I hope people go there, and I have some information about that. And I have the draft of my speech on my Facebook page, and I'd like people to look at it, and that's what I wanted to say to people, and take it for what I've said, not for anything else.
Maybe we can finish this up by talking a little bit about what happened afterwards. You know, this is kind of a review of what happened and a debrief of what happened. And so after you finished, people came up to you from the crowd and spoke to you. What kind of things did they say?
Yes, they did. Well, before I mention that, I would like to say that you would think that I would feel embarrassed and shamed in some way that I was being reprimanded in front of 1,000 people. But actually, I didn't feel that way. I felt that this was like people were witnessing what was happening to me. People witnessed it.
Yeah.
And I had people come up to me. One woman said that she might not have agreed with what I had to say, but she wanted to hear what I had to say. She wanted me to finish. And I had other people come up to me and thank me, and that did help me. You know, I'm a little bit nervous right now, but that was very life-affirming for me. That was life-affirming. Yeah. But I'm not sorry for anything I said. I'm not sorry. I'm glad I got as far as I did in my talk.
I remember one woman said she really learned a lot.
Yes, yes. And so I don't feel shamed. I feel like it was an example of how the local lobby operates in our community. I mean, what can I say? Exactly.
And one woman that was walking with us back to the parking lot, she had been assigned as a monitor. She was supposed to go in the march. And she said, the minute they cut your mic off, and then another woman came on who was transgendered and was complaining about having been marginalized by all these white women. That was also divisive, but she wasn't cut off. So this woman we were walking with said, "That's it. I resigned. I am not. I am not going to escort the march anymore. You know."
Right.
And so, and those are just little bits of blowback. I think.
But if I could have finished my speech, I emphasized that human rights are for all people, and that's what we need to do, and we need to create a vision forward for freedom, justice, and equality. And that's what I'm asking for. And I do this. What fuels my intensity on this is the betrayal of the so-called progressive left, and the injustice that Palestinian refugees are denied the right of return. That's intolerable to me. I do this for people who do not have a voice. I mean, as bad as this was today, I don't have to worry too much about having my house bombed or my child sniped, detained and tortured, like the Palestinian people do. So I do my best to represent that voice. We all have something that we feel it needs to be said, and something that needs to be done. We're all important. It's part of the entire picture. But this part is what's always cut off, you know, marginalized. And every day we're trying to find ways to help people understand this intersectionality of oppression, and it's there, and it's for everyone. It affects everyone. So I want to thank you for this interview, and thank you very much.